The world is vast. I've barely scratched the surface. Whenever I find myself in conversation with someone whose experience in life extends far beyond my own, I prefer to listen and be a student. I met Ali at a hot pot dinner organized by a mutual friend. I noticed, instead of cooking the cabbage leaves in the spicy broth, he ate them raw like a salad, saying he loved crunchy raw greens. Ali was born in Iran. He left his home country in his early 20s after getting arrested for rebelling against the regime. He was an atheist and told me renouncing Islam was illegal in Iran and punishable by death. While in prison, he pretended to pray every day in efforts to put on a show of faith to the security camera in his cell. After his release, Ali decided it would be smart to leave Iran before his trial date. He paid someone to smuggle him into Turkey. I probably looked puzzled since I'm not familiar with the process of smuggling humans across international borders. Ali clarified this involved leaving in the middle of the night with a backpack and not telling anyone about it. He started a new life in Turkey and worked in tourism. A few years later, he immigrated to the United States and waited tables in a Japanese restaurant in New York City, where he developed a love for seafood and a discerning eye for cleanliness. I asked if the Iranian government was looking for him. He said he didn't think so. As long as he didn't get heavily involved in politics against the regime, they wouldn't bother. Ali had a law degree from Iran, but it meant nothing in the United States, so he had to start over and chose a degree in philosophy. My parents did the same when they came to the United States about 30 years ago. In China, my father worked in finance and my mother was a teacher. Like Ali, both began as waiters and waitresses to get a start in their new American life. Then my father studied computer science and now works in IT. My mother studied accounting and is now an accountant. After a few years in the service industry, Ali got a job working in sales for a tech company in Nebraska. After living there for a few years, he decided to work remotely and travel the world, starting in Europe. He only lasted 4 months before the cold winter and loneliness brought him to Argentina. He already had some friends in Buenos Aires, and the time zone was suitable with his job. He could also take advantage of the low cost of living and pay off his student debt. I had an American colleague back in Vietnam who used this strategy and succeeded. After 5 years of living cheaply and saving money as an English teacher, she was debt-free. Ali lived in the elegant neighborhood of Recoleta. One Sunday, he invited me out for coffee. I watched in awe as he drank 3 lattes in a row. I had a flat white and a cappuccino to keep up with him, and hoped I wouldn't have trouble sleeping later that night. Afterwards, we went to an upscale restaurant. At least it was upscale to me since I always eat at the same casual Italian place in my neighborhood. For him, it looked like any normal restaurant in New York. The beautiful young hostess was from Brazil, where I was headed next. She spoke perfect English and told us she refused to learn Spanish. It was too similar to Portuguese and sounded strange. We ordered medium rare ribeye steaks, but forgot how thick the steaks were served in Argentina. It was mostly raw once we cut down the center. Ali said in New York City, a steak of this size and quality would cost at least $80, but in Argentina, it was $16. We didn't order any side dishes, but we did have a beautiful pavlova for dessert. Ali and I were similar when it came to dessert. We knew what we liked and rarely drifted outside our tried and true favorites. We loved all things chocolate, and our favorite dessert was tiramisu. The pavlova was our effort to branch out. Afterwards, he invited me back to his apartment for tea. It was a spacious studio with a long dining table, a large kitchen, a living room area, and a balcony. The rent was $750 a month, with utilities included. He made us some peppermint tea, but there was no table near the sofa, so we decided to have our tea while sitting on the hardwood floors. Ali had short, dark hair and a shock of silver through his neatly trimmed beard. He had a dark, handsome face and was trying to get back in shape after months of traveling without a workout schedule. He kept a storage unit in the United States and brought 2 bags for this journey, one large checked luggage and one large duffel bag as his carry-on. I told him I planned to travel through Latin America for 2 or 3 years, but I was exhausted after only 1. He replied, if I wanted my energy to last on the next trip, the solution was to keep an apartment and take shorter trips in the surrounding countries. Total spontaneity isn't always conducive to long-term well-being. I didn't know much about the Middle East, and even less about Iran, which Ali claimed was different from Arabic countries. I once read Persepolis by Marjane Satrapi. It tells the true story of Marji, a young girl growing up in Iran during the Islamic Revolution. We see the world through her eyes as her country undergoes dramatic changes, and she grapples with her family's ideals, her own rebellious spirit, and the challenges of finding her identity. After Persepolis, I read Embroideries, her other novel. It's a humorous and insightful look into the world of Iranian women. Marji's relatives and neighbors share funny, frank stories about love, sex, and the pressures of societal expectations, particularly around virginity in their lives. Ali said, Persians are ethnically and linguistically distinct from Arabs. The main language is Farsi, not Arabic. I couldn't help but ask if hummus was part of Iranian cuisine, and he replied no, it's more Arabic. Persian cuisine is different. I'm looking forward to discovering the nuances of Middle Eastern gastronomy on my next trip. The quality of the fruits in Argentina delighted him. He complained he hadn't tasted a real apple since he left the Middle East. In Nebraska, he'd buy one, keep it on the kitchen table for 2 weeks, and it would still be pristine. Flies and worms took no interest because there was nothing nourishing inside. American produce has been genetically modified into oblivion, he said. The only decent fruits were imported. I haven't tried the apples in Argentina, but the peaches and oranges were superb. I remember being in shock when I first moved to Vietnam and tasted their pineapples and watermelons. At first, I underestimated their small size. They seemed miniature compared to the giant fruits sold in American supermarkets, but their flavor was 100 times more intense. Ali was relieved his mother passed away a few years ago. It was the only way to escape the life she was living. She was a wonderful person, and introduced him to the world of books. For this, Ali owed much of his success in life to her. As a child, she always bought whatever book he wanted. He said, since she grew up in a third world society, in a large family of farmers, peasants, and uneducated people, it was extraordinary how his mother understood the value of education. Her emotional and cognitive function declined due to severe depression. Ali's father was a terrible husband. Death was her salvation. For me, the introduction to books was through my older cousin. As children, I always saw her reading novels after school, and naturally wanted to copy the person I looked up to. Ali loathed his father. Shortly after his mother's death, his father began dropping hints that it would be good to have someone move in to cook, clean, and do the housework. They lived in a normal apartment that didn't have servants' quarters, and it was illegal for a man and a woman to live together if they weren't married. Clearly, he was suggesting he wanted to remarry. Ali told him it was a bad idea financially, since his father would have to take on the extra expenses of supporting a wife. There were plenty of women with successful careers in Iran, but Ali's father wasn't the type of man who would marry one, and they wouldn't want to marry him either. Ali's younger sister was still living at home. One day, she messaged him while he was at work in Turkey, saying there was a woman in the house. Apparently, their father got married without telling anyone in the family, and brought his new bride home without telling his daughter what was going on. Ali clarified, this was not normal in Iran. This kind of behavior may be acceptable in remote villages high up in the mountains, isolated from civilization. But for educated people like his father who lived in cities and had regular jobs, it was plain despicable. He had no sympathy towards his new stepmother either, since she was in her 40s and should know better. It was unlikely that she was a pleasant woman since she agreed to marry someone as vile as his father. The woman was not kind to Ali's sister, who was studying German and hoped to find a job in Germany soon. Sometimes, Ali still had nightmares about his past. Work was a relief because he could control his thoughts during his waking hours. Sex was also a relief because, again, he had control. I couldn't help but suggest psychedelics. He was in Latin America after all. He might as well take advantage of the plant medicines available. I've heard someone say 1 round of ayahuasca equals 10 years of therapy. I asked Ali if Iran was third world. He replied, it didn't used to be, but it is now. It was doing well, but then went downhill in 1979 after a stupid revolution promising to bring free stuff and equality for everyone. To him, Europe and the United States were second world. Japan, Korea, and Singapore were first world. Ali had a plan. He'd start a real estate business and become a millionaire. After becoming a millionaire, he'd become a billionaire. The United States was a place where this was not only possible, but one of the most easily feasible. He had plans to fix the country and make it more like Japan, turning its financial expenditures internally. To him, Japan was the pinnacle of success. It had one of the best education and public transport systems in the world. It built a strong economy through manufacturing cars and electronics instead of weapons and military. Japanese culture was vibrant, sophisticated, and respected globally. All it took was minding its own business. Ali was a strong believer in immigration control. Europe and the United States lacked common sense when it came to protecting their land and cultures. They let in hordes of immigrants that have a difficult time assimilating. Immigration was good in moderation, and if done right. Of course, some people see it as humane treatment, but he did not. He wouldn't let any homeless person into his home just to be humane. He pointed out, at the hot pot restaurant where we met, there were plenty of people to talk to. I was the only person he invited back to his home. It was his home and his choice on whom to invite, and he chose someone he saw as a good fit to be his friend. He didn't invite people who drank excessively, smoked, did drugs, or had different interests than his. He chose someone who would enrich his life, not bring problems and incoherence. The same logic goes for immigration. Ali claimed the culture in Argentina originated from Spain and Italy, and these were not countries known for high productivity. Staying out until 3 a.m. on a weekday and taking 2-hour siestas in the afternoon didn't encourage the most robust economies. I disagreed, since these cultural habits had little to do with government policies. But as usual, I listened and refrained from arguing. To be honest, I didn't know enough about the economies of Spain or Italy to refute him. To Ali, everything was America's fault. The United States meddled in foreign countries, destroyed those countries, and left in shame. Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iran. It interfered with Russia and Ukraine, with Israel and Palestine. It tried to save, improve, or remake countries in its own image with arrogant disregard to intricate histories of these countries much older than its own. He wouldn't be surprised if the United States had something to do with the economic instability of Argentina either. The superpower was overreaching itself, and like the ancient empires of the Romans and the Mongols, it too would inevitably fall due to grand ambitions for expansion. The United States needed to be more isolationist, focus on trade and less on war, stop giving money to foreign countries, and fix its own systems. He said the United States gives money to France. I didn't know that. After berating the United States, Ali began to commend it. It rewarded entrepreneurs, made leaps and bounds in technology, and was a powerhouse in arts and culture. He came to the United States with $1,000. A few years later, he lived like any middle-class American with a six-figure salary in a respected field. It was an incredible country. He didn't want it to ruin itself. Ali planned to become a billionaire and start buying lobbyists and politicians to put his agenda into motion. He dreamed of a life of opulence, filled with private jets, mansions, and all the material possessions money could buy. He wanted a yacht where he could conduct his business empire online and be at sea for weeks or even months. The kind with a helicopter pad and a swimming pool. He'd throw topless pool parties and orgies. I was invited. He then added, I didn't have to sleep with him during these orgies. I'd watch him do it with others, and he'd watch me do it with others. This proposition for mutual voyeurism came out of the blue, a clear signal he was attracted to me. How creative men are in all their ways of expressing their desire for a woman. Amused, I asked how he planned on becoming this politician-buying, orgy-throwing billionaire. He replied he wasn't sure, and was still brainstorming ideas for his real estate empire. The first step was to have the courage and imagination to envision it. Most people would think it was silly or unachievable and wouldn't even try. Well, hopefully Ali gets what he wants out of life. By the time his billionaire dreams become a reality, I hope to be happily committed to a man I love and would consult him about attending the mega yacht orgy. I doubt I'd accept the invitation either way because I get seasick. My own dreams were far more modest. I simply wanted to be financially secure to continue my writing and other creative pursuits, and to provide for my parents as they age. One of my hopes is to take them on a memorable trip and introduce them to new cultures, experiences, and landscapes. They've only ever been to China to visit relatives and on a few cruises to the Caribbean. Visiting new places is stressful and daunting for them. The unfamiliar surroundings, the language barriers, the fear of getting lost. I, on the other hand, have a wealth of travel experience and would serve as a reassuring presence, helping them to relax and enjoy the experience. It was a simple dream, but one that held deep meaning for me, as it would be a way to express my love. I hope I'm doing a decent job as your narrator. It can be a challenge to provide a genuine, detailed account of the people I meet while traveling. They have so much to express, and sometimes I'm afraid I don't do them justice through my portrayals. Each encounter offers a glimpse into a unique worldview. These interactions challenge our own perspectives, broaden our understanding, and remind us that no matter the differences in background, if we choose to do so, we can always find common ground in our shared humanity. You never know who you'll meet next in your travels. Before Argentina, I spent a few weeks in the Sacred Valley of Peru. Find out what happened in this video, where I meet a Brazilian divorcee, an American NGO worker, a solo traveler from Mexico, and get invited to a San Pedro cactus ceremony.